Okay.
If you don't already know Lee, she is from Maui. She moved from California in '69 to attend the community college, and her family's progressive social justice values were a powerful motivating force for her to continue to kind of deepen that area. She's very active in many areas of social services and social work on Maui specifically and across the state for the last 4 decades. Her advocacy pursuits include court advocacy at the Women Helping Women shelter in '81, serving as the Hawaii State Representative to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. She founded and administered the Alternatives to Violence program, serving court-ordered men involved in family violence on Maui, Molokai, and Lanai in 1983. She received her MSW at the UH Manoa School of Social Work in '99. Her master's practicum placement was at the case management at TJ Mahoney and Associates, halfway house for women transitioning from WCCC on Oahu from '97 to '99. The work experience resulted in her returning home in '99, where she was hired as the executive director of Malama Family Recovery, a gender-specific addiction treatment program for women and their young children. She left Malama in late 2001. Sorry, let me just admit some people, to accept a full-time faculty position in the Human Services program at Maui Community College. She became the Human Services Program Coordinator and retired from the college in 2018, though she continues to teach the Social Work 200. And she was trained in motivational interviewing by Bill Miller, the co-founder of Motivational Interviewing, and has done statewide MI trainings for various agencies. I hope I did you justice, Lee. We're going to start now. I'm going to share my screen and then Lee's going to take it from there. Again, just remember, you are more than welcome to join in the conversation whenever you feel the urge. So without further ado, here we go. Can everybody see my screen? Can I get ahead? Perfect. All right, Lee, take it away.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm really glad to be here, and it's so fun to see those of you who I know, either from work in the community or from as being in the college classes that I teach, or me being in things that you've trained or whatever. There are a lot of colleagues here, it's great, and friends. So this is, advocacy is something I've done a lot of over the decades at various levels, the micro, macro, and meso and macro. And these are students that have been in my classes for a long time. And every one of those women, it turns out, has been an advocate in our community in one way or another. I think the picture is 10 years old at least. But we can see Tasha Kama, who is a councilwoman, who is a big advocate in our community. And okay, next slide, please. So those of you who've been in my classes, you know I overproduce. So I'm going to be speeding through things because I do overproduce content because I'm interested in so much of it. But this particular definition of advocacy, taking purposeful action to help people advance their rights, opportunities, causes, and human dignity on behalf of socially and economically vulnerable individuals and groups. And the reason we do that is that we do not live in a society with a level playing field where all the perks and bonuses of our economy and our jobs and those kinds of things, we're social and economic justice is not evenly spread around in our world. And so many of the people we see and advocate for are people that need assistance, availing themselves more to some of those perks. And often we are the ones that are helping link them and helping empower them to find their own voice for taking care of that. So social justice is a part of advocacy, at least in the way I was trained at the School of Social Work. And we want to help people to access the power and resources within themselves so they can then access those things outside of them that they need. Next slide. So helping people find their motivation is something that is very, very important to do. This isn't the MI part of it, but this is just talking about and exploring what you already do and know about eliciting motivation from the people you work with. And that's something that, because we're so limited in time, we may not be able to have long discussions about it, but if you want to add comments in the chat about the things that you do, that does help, then others can read those and see that and learn from that. And then, how many of you know what doesn't work in terms of helping people find their motivation? I do. And typically it's when we take the lead, and often telling people what to do rather than helping them find their voice, what's important to them, their value system. We're not learning their value system possibly. And so it doesn't work when we tell people what we think they should do, or just send, here's a referral, go there. You know, those kinds of things are not empowering in that way. So we're going to explore a lot of different things, best practices that buoy people's self-motivation, the likelihood from our interactions with them that buoy the possibilities for them of taking more action and becoming their own advocates, which is what we really want, I believe. Okay, next one. So cultural humility. I know that cultural competence is something that is talked about tremendously in every arena of social work, human service work, social services. But being competent about the myriad of people's differences that we work with in our community is a very challenging goal, because competence means you get it completely. And humility is this position of, what do I need to learn? And what can I learn from the people I'm working with about their cultural values, their values for life, in their life, their family's constellation and how it works? What are the ways that I can help understand them? So, and this is tied into, can you hear me now? If we're not really listening to what our clients are telling us about what they need in their lives when we're advocating, we're missing their voice, their understanding of their own values, their religious values, their social values, all those educational values, all those things. And so when we take a humble stance, not one of, I know what you need, or, you know, because I know this group of people, I know a few people in this group, I know what you all are like, you know, those kind of exaggerated senses of our ability can happen. So we really want to practice cultural humility. And what it requires of us is that we have to be really self-aware of the unconscious and conscious biases that we may bring to people who are different than us, that share different lifestyles, that have different ways of living, and have different values. And so self-reflection is a huge part of social work. It's a huge part of any human service work, that if we're not paying attention to what we're bringing, and especially if it's kind of unconscious and judgmental, that is one of our first tasks that we have to really look at. What am I bringing to this? How is what I'm bringing, and then watching the response of what you offer and see if it's being received well. And if it isn't, then it's time to start doing a little more in-depth self-awareness. What might be going on? How might I be adding to their discomfort right now? Okay. And we need that. Not only do we have to become aware of our biases, but we need to practice stopping using them, stopping having those judgments, stopping having those biases, and neutralize that. And that can be quite an internal process to do. Okay, next slide, please. So the way we practice, so there's the concept of cultural humility, and then there's the practice of it. So part of what we need to do is recognize there are power dynamics whenever we are a helper and we have clients that are coming from generally a more vulnerable spot than we're certainly in, right? And so there can be some power imbalances in that. There can be other dynamics that happen. One of the things that I started doing at Alternatives to Violence, so this is in the 80s, was, I'm a woman and I was working with primarily men who use violence in intimate relationships. And I would say to them, sometimes if I felt there was an edge, they weren't connecting with me, I'd say, I know I'm a white woman and I'm sitting in front of you and you're a Hawaiian man or whatever. And I just want to know if that's okay with you, if there's something I could do. Would you like me to find another staff member that we have that you might feel more comfortable with, a man, whatever. And so I bring the things forward when there is a clear difference. I sometimes just put it out there. And it's interesting how few of those men ever said, I want somebody other than you, out of the hundreds I worked with. So I think sometimes that's a way to just address there's a difference. And if you're working with an LGBT person and you're heterosexual, that might be something you want to broach, or at least look at your own issues about their orientation. And we want to know the backstory of what's happened in people's lives. It's very hard to help people if we just hear what they present in the moment and we don't understand how do things happen in their family constellation? How do these things happen in the community with them? How do these happen in their job? How do things happen at the more macro level where there are all the other institutions involved in their life? And so there are many, many aspects that we want to explore. And I have some handouts that I can give at people. At the end, I put my email. I have person in the environment, a way to look at people's lives and the complexity of their lives in a little model, which is really handy. And I'm happy to share those kinds of things. We really want to know what has influenced the people that have come to us, and then be non-judgmental. So non-judgmental curiosity is a term that I've used for years, is that being curious does not put people off. Being a teller of what to do is very off-putting for most people. So it's an exploration between you and them to create the connection that will work and deepen, hopefully. And so there are plenty of backstories that people have. We don't want to get into the weeds of them, but we want to know in a general sense, what are you facing right now? What are the kinds of issues that are coming up for you right now? And how can I help you? And how can we create a plan or whatever? Okay, next slide. So these are things, the things in red are things that Bobby Joe sent me. I asked her when she first asked me if I would do this, to tell me what are some of the challenges that you face as workers doing advocacy for children and families. And so these are 4 of them. There were more than that. Assistance running out for people, lack of resources, eligibility issues, all sorts of things. So what I would ask of you is, and with your fellow staff, is consider how you and your organization could work to address these issues in a general sense. And sometimes it means you're working with child welfare services to help them see some of the things that are preventing you from being able to provide, or preventing issues for the clients. So it can involve other agencies that you want to collaborate with about some of these, because these are real challenges. I've had all of those happen to me in my career, and it's very frustrating. So how do you advocate for the changes in your own agency and in other agencies to benefit the clients? So that's a bigger level of advocacy than individual advocacy. Okay, next slide. The strengths perspective. So strengths and resiliencies. So I think certainly I was, I'm much older than any of you, I'm sure. So I was first taught to work with the problem focus and the pathology of people. It's like, oh, that's a pathological thing, or oh, this is their problem. And in doing that, when we're taught the fix-it kind of human services, we're really not looking, we're looking at the problem. We spend our focus on the problem instead of focusing on what's within, what are the gems within this human and what they know about themselves that we can unearth together how do I ask questions that talk about strengths and resiliencies instead of always pounding on the problem or bring it back to the problem? So that is a really important thing that I've learned and I use. And part of the attitudes and actions of the strengths perspective is that the knowledge that everyone has strengths. They may not be visible to us, but we can try to elicit them from them. What are the things that make you tick? When are you happy? When are you having a delightful time with your child? What's happening when that's happening? And these are all open-ended questions. They're not closed-ended questions. They're ones that are seeking to draw out parts of them that they may not be used to drawing out, but that we all have. We all have strengths and resiliencies. Another is believing your client's perspective. I know in the addiction field, which I've worked in for decades, there are many workers and places that are very confrontational for people. And it's like, you're never going to get clean and those kinds of things, which predicting failure, those kinds of things. And there are many gentle, wonderful ways to help people find motivation to change. But it isn't through when we're judgmental and critical and telling people what to do. So collaborating with them, developing the relationship that lets them know they're safe with you and you're not going to attack them or insult them, and you're going to listen to them. Communicate your respect. It's a very, very important part of it. The people we see want to have autonomy in their lives. They want to be the ones making the decisions in their lives. And we need to respect that they should have that autonomy. And then we can help team with them to make that autonomy be more satisfying to them, have more of that autonomy. Advocacy has times when we confront the blocks that are in our way, in a way, and that is a way you build strength of autonomy by speaking your truth. So we can empower our clients, and we do that generally with the way that we are with them, support resilience, embody hope, and practice non-judgmental curiosity, which is one of my favorite ways of being with people. I can listen to anything and reflect it back and say, I understand this is what you're experiencing, in a way that isn't critical to them. And that's important. Next slide, please. So here we come to motivational interviewing. It is a collaborative conversational style. So what that means is we're interested in who we're working with. We're open and asking. We're respectful of what they tell us about themselves and what they would like to see happen or not see happen. And we reflect back to them what we heard them say in some way. So we're affirming that we're listening, that we've heard them. And we can reflect back things that people are saying that are negative, and saying, I don't want to do that again. You really are done with that. Something that says, I hear you, or you want to be done with that. Something that reflects what they've actually said. So you're hearing the positive things that they're eliciting, that you're eliciting in them, and also the downsides of that. So we want to help them find their motivation for change rather than trying to instill it. So there is the spirit of motivational interviewing, which is down in this little illustration at the bottom. MI spirit is in the heart, essentially, of having collaboration skills, having compassion and empathy, respecting people's personal autonomy, the right to make their own decisions, and evocation, which means drawing out from them. We evoke responses from them that will help them find motivation. And so it's complex in some ways, and it's very simple in others. But the spirit of MI, the way Bill Miller said, is the spirit, when I'm doing MI with somebody, the spirit of MI is the music in the background. And other people have said it's the heartbeat of the session. It's just always there. And if we are compassionate, collaborating, drawing out from them, with respect and honoring their autonomy, we have that music and heartbeat going. And the thing is that we need to keep it throughout the work we do with them. Next one. So the skills, I'm sure you all know these skills. The skills of motivational interviewing are open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summarizations. And let's go to the next one. I think they're listed. Oh, there they are. Oh, there they are. And summarizations. And so those are the fundamental skills that are used in motivational interviewing, that it's really client-centered on reflecting back, listening with, and asking open-ended questions that bring out more material and more of their values and more of their ideas. Then reflecting again. Every time they say something, we want to reflect that we understood them. One of the ways people don't believe we're hearing them is that we don't let them know we're here. We don't say, I got everything you just said. Let me say it again. This is what I heard. You know, any kind of way you do that is a way to let people know. So they're not wondering, does this person hear me? Right, it's very clear. So, and summaries do that as well. Bill Miller calls a conversation that he has with people. He says, as I'm having this conversation and they are giving me flowers of their motivation, little, you know, like a seed here and a flower there, I am in my mind gathering a bouquet. And when we're done with that part, I give them the bouquet in a summary. In other words, he links all the things that they have said that are moving toward change. And he says, and this is how I summarize this. Is that what you were saying? And giving them a chance to validate or say no. And so it's a very heartfelt, it's a very connected way of being with people. And these very simple skills are the heart of motivational interviewing. And if you get a chance to do an MI training, and I do them around the community periodically, and I do them for free. So any agencies out there that hear that and want me to do one, I will do it. I'm retired now, so I have time. Anyway, some of these, so affirmations can be just very clear. Reflections can be very complex. You can have a complex, multifaceted reflection that puts all those parts together, like the flower bouquet that Bill gives people. So those are the primary skills, though there's nothing tremendously challenging other than the stuff we've gotten this far, being self-aware, not pushing people, those kinds of things. Okay, next one. Okay, using questions to build motivation. So this is a little practice that you can do, and you'll have this on, hopefully you'll copy this for yourself, the slides. And these are ways we ask people when they're on. So ambivalence is another thing. You know, people come on the fence. Like, I really like to have this happen, but I don't want to do what it takes to make it happen. Or I'm so tired of using drugs and being loaded, and not being good with my kids. And yet I feel like I really need to use drugs to normalize myself. You know, all these ambivalence is being on the fence. It's two ways of looking at it, and it's being stuck. It's just being stuck on the fence. And so using these questions, open-ended questions to help someone find motivation is by asking something like, well, why would you want to make a change? And letting them answer that. What would be your 3 best reasons for change? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10's high, how important is it for you to change? In order to be successful, how would you go about changing? So those are some good questions if people are engaging in trying to move forward on something. Ideally, these questions help someone think and learn from what they themselves say. So often we're the ones that are telling people what we think they should do, but this is just completely eliciting things from them. And often people are shocked when they're asked, you know, why would you want to make a change? You know, well, I would like to stop yelling at my kids, but whatever the but is. So this is a good way to do that. The next slide is a readiness ruler, I think. Nope, not yet. I'm ahead of myself. Which one was the next one, Smash?
The next one was this one.
Is
So
this
you
one? Okay, great. So, and this is reflective listening so that you can say back, repeat, or paraphrase what they said. But you want to get a nod like, yeah, that was it. Or if they're sitting like this and looking at you funny, it's like, I don't. So then you can say, it doesn't look like I said, I reflected back what you were really saying. Could you say it again? Because you really want to hear them. And then you go on and say, tell me more. Is there more to that? Tell me more. So you're always encouraging a more elaborate adventure for them and a sharing of what they're coming up with. Worst thing that can happen is for them to say one thing and to think, and for you to think they meant something else. So you want to check it out. That's why checking it out with a reflection is really important to do. And listening for strengths with compassion and empathy. Really important to do. Any questions this far or comments or? Okay, let's go to the next one. So here's ambivalence. Yes, I'd like to get a job, but I don't have a car or whatever. Using these questions to invite the person to talk about their wishes and dreams, reasons and needs to change without supplying our reasons. That's a really important part of it. In this way, and so you help the person discover their own motivation. So it's like, well, what would be good about changing? What could you see? What could you see in the future that would be good? Oh, well, I wouldn't be yelling at my kids. That's a good one. And and that's what they do. That's what people do when you ask these kinds of questions. They often come up with a lot of good answers in ways that are moved toward motivation. So, and through reflecting back. So we're creating a partnership that if it's really, really workable, how many of you have worked with somebody where it really just matched and it was good and it was easy? That's what you want to have with as many people as you can. And using those, looking for strengths, not criticizing, not judging, those kinds of things help immensely and show and lending them your hope. I think that's on the next slide possibly, or maybe I left it out, but people come to us hopeless that are in really vulnerable situations. They feel very little hope. And lending our hope to them doesn't come from saying, oh, you can do it. It comes from being with them enough and understanding them enough to say, but I see this part of you. And you reflect to them the part of them you see that is reaching toward change. If you see it, you don't make it up if you don't see it, of course. But if you're seeing it, you want to reflect it and say, I know that you say it's really hard, but you threw away that pack of cigarettes. That's a big deal, or whatever it is, right? Stop swearing at your kids, whatever. Okay. So this is called a readiness ruler, and you can print this out off of your handout, which, if you get an electronic version, you can print this out, but you can put anything. It could be a confidence ruler, it could be a commitment ruler, it could be how motivated are you, 1 to 10. And then the interesting thing about this ruler is if you're looking at motivation and you say, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to cut down on your drinking? And they say, well, I'm at a 3. And then what I say is, wow, how come you're not at a 1 or a 2? What got you to a 3? That's different. And so then when they start talking about where they were at a 1 and where they were at a 2, they're talking about change. They're telling you how they got to 3, which is about changing from 1 and 2. And so it's a way to get their change talk, which is actually motivation toward change. So they're very, very handy. It can be confidence. You can do it for anything. How effective do you think you'll be at doing that? Your confidence in yourself, your effectiveness. I know we're going kind of fast, huh? Is it too fast? Yes, no. Some yeses, no, some no's. Okay, next one. Smash. Oh yeah, here. most important to make change? How come you're not at that? These questions help build motivation. And so here you have a tool that when you're working with people, you can use with them. You know, it sounds like you're on the cusp of wanting to do something. Let's look at how motivated you are or how important it is to you. Importance and confidence are the predictors of whether people do go through change. Those things. So when you get a high indicator of confidence and importance, then they pretty much are going to get ready to do something. They're preparing for change, basically.
Lee, we have a question in the chat from Chelsea.
Okay.
She's asking, how do you work with those who say or believe that they are ready and want to change, but their actions and responses show that they are not?
Right. Right. So then I think I would begin to ask questions. You know, I know that you're talking about being motivated to change, and then it appears that it's not happening for you. Whoops, I just changed my whole screen somehow by moving my mouse. Anyway, and tell me a little bit about that. What do you think that process is like? What's happening that's holding you up? Because when we're here together, you're talking about wanting to change and being ready actually to change. So what prevents your readiness from taking a step into change? You know, something that just has them talk about it. No judgment, no criticism, no, you know, in the old days, people in treatment would say, you know, you come back after you've bombed and then you'll be motivated. You know, bombing and coming, you know, hitting bottom is not motivation. Hitting bottom is where people decide to kill themselves or something worse, often. But, you know, this is about, you know, I hear you're preparing to be ready, but actually engaging in the steps isn't happening. So what do you think that is? Let's explore that together. And you just do it in this very neutral tone of inquiry, helping them inquire what the blocks are, what's getting in the way. Let's talk a little bit about the things that are preventing that from happening, and then see what it is. Could be time scheduling. Who knows what it is? Could be economic. Hard to know. But it's very, very normal for people to say they're ready to change and not change. And that's when I think I would bring out ambivalence and talk to them about ambivalence and how hard change is. When you're ambivalent, that means there's one part of you that wants to change and there's another part that wants to keep it the same. And so where are you in balancing those two things right now? And you could do a readiness rooster. Okay, the 1 is, I'm not going to do anything. 10 is, I've changed fully. So what's a 2 for you? What movement would 2 be for you that would be a step toward your goal of being a 10? And it's all just getting them to think, you know, it isn't providing solutions for them or telling them what to do. It is really about getting them to think about, what would I need to do? And who could support you in what you do? You know, and adding all those external supports too that can help people change in very good ways, very meaningful ways. Other questions? That was a great question. No questions? Okay, what slide are we on, Smash? Do they have numbers?
All right, let me see. I don't have numbers, but we're on the resistance and client pushback.
Yeah. Okay. So resistant. How many of you have experienced this? Like resistance from a client pushback. So, and this is another one of the things that some of you may have given to Bobby Joe, being referred for services involuntarily, and they come with anger, denial, and or shame, or just plain old PO'd, and not wanting to relate, and bringing past negatives with them about it. So it often happens when somebody's pushing too hard. So if they're coming to you with pushback, and because of that, they're pushing back at what happened to them in the past. So there is an opportunity to change how you relate to them from that to this. And that in a case that many cases that I have done is like when somebody comes and they say, you know, they're making me do this. The judge did this to me and I'm ticked off and I don't want to do it. And I go, yeah, I can really understand. I can understand that feels really terrible to have somebody telling you what to do. And then there can be penalties if you don't do it. I totally get it. So what is it the judge wants from you? Well, he wants me to stop this and do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, do you have any desires to do any, and just get it into a conversation that is moving it away from, and I'm not the bad guy, because I'm not saying you've got to do this, right? And keeping pushing like the judge did. How can I make this easier for you to comply with what they're demanding of you? You want to talk about that? I mean, I will not do anything unethical to help them get out of something, but I will do everything in my power to help them calm down and see the reason and why they're being asked from the external pressure. Does that make sense? So we're always in, no matter what they bring, we're always in this place. We're not going to do pushback. We're not going to do shaming. We're not going to do pushing them when they're not ready. And that builds a different kind of relationship. So some helpful responses is stop what you're saying or asking. If you're the one they're responding to, if suddenly they get ticked off at you, then it's like, oh, I can see that I may have offended you, or something that I said or asked for you didn't like. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Get them to be able to express it. Because many people, when they feel pushed, they don't know how to talk to somebody about it. They'd rather punch them or walk out, right? So you want to keep your cool and go, I think I overstepped here. And if I did, I apologize. I really am sorry if I overstepped, or if I said something that was insulting to you. Can we try that again? And then try to redo it so that it's you don't lose them. And they say, or they leave saying, man, that person actually talked to me and apologized, So stop saying what you're saying or asking, or drop it. Not my favorite, because dropping it just leaves it sitting there. Reflecting back what the person said so that you're listening to this too and apologize. You can always go back to it later. Can we put this aside right now? I can see that I said something that offended you. Can we go to another place and leave that there for the moment? Just some way to get it out of the way and reestablish connection if possible. And it is challenging that we can't make people change. We can try to encourage them to find their motivation. We can help them find it. We can support them as they make steps. Baby steps are really important to get acknowledged and affirmed. But we can't just say, you got to change and have them change. It's a process. And it's mostly relational, if they stick with you or not, and if you stick with them or not. Okay, next slide.
We were at slide 15.
We're right at the end, huh?
We're right at the cusp.
Okay, so what that means, and we still got a lot of time. Well, we have 19 minutes, right? 20 minutes. Yeah, anyway, so concerns. So sometimes we have people in front of us that we think are going to die, or their child will die if change doesn't happen, because there's dangerous behavior, drug use, violence, all kinds of stuff. And we can share our concerns, but always in a clear, calm way. When I worked at Women Helping Women Shelter in the 80s, and we'd have women that were saying, I want to go home, and they're going to go home and get smashed by somebody, but you can't say you can't go, because it's their life, they're autonomous. So I would say, can we sit down and talk? And what I would like is to make a safety plan with you. So when you go, you have some ideas about, if it happens again, what you could do, who you could call, where your kids' birth certificates are, where, just help her make a plan. Can you please indulge me in that? You don't have to do the plan, but it's a way for me to express my concern without putting it on her and saying, you're doing the wrong thing, right? So there are very gentle ways that we can tell people our concerns. So I know that you've said you're not worried about your son's drug use, but there can be devastating consequences. Well, it's your choice. I'm going to give you some, I wouldn't say I'm going to give you some resources. I'd like to give you some resources and I hope that you'll consider looking at them. And please come back again if you want to come back, because I will always see you. Something that is affirming that I'm not going anywhere. Any questions or comments about that? I know many of you in the addiction field have probably had many ways of saying these kinds of things, just like me in the DV field and working with women coming out of prison and all that. Okay, next one. Self-care. So let's have a little teeny bit of sharing about how do you care for yourself now as an advocate or whatever work it is you do. Are there ways that you take care of yourself that you'd like to share or talk about? You can put it in the chat if you don't want to talk.
Cheyenne shared that she likes to be outside in the yard or go for walks.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne shared that she likes to do reading or taking time to zone out. Chelsea shares that she likes to spend time with animals. If I say your name, I'm sorry. Brianne likes to do breathing exercises.
Yep. You and I do very similar things. You know, living on Maui is such a blessing because you can go almost anywhere and have nature just pour herself into you. It's amazing.
We've got some more coming in. Sharon shares that she likes to garden or go to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Renee shares that she likes to hike and run. Sarah shares that she likes to prioritize movement, doing yoga, walking, beach in the forest. I may butcher this and I'm sorry, kahibai. I'm going to shorten it a little. Likes to do self-care, to swimming in the ocean and the rivers. Kathy shared gym, ocean, and sunsets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it sounds like we like to enjoy the outdoors, to kind of escape away from the realities that are shared with us, if that's the picture I'm getting.
Yep. When I want to really talk about something that's bothering me, I go to my goat pen, our goat pen, and I talk to the goats, because then I know I won't offend anybody, you know, by ranting or telling my story or whatever. But yeah, just as long as we can get things out and calm ourselves, you know, the autonomic nervous system needs some real peace and quiet to stay calm. So it looks like Cheyenne is learning about cultural humility in your MSW class. That's great. I know some of you are in the MSW and BSW programs that are here, and I would love to hear from you how it's going. I proposed to the new, there's an interim dean of the School of Social Work right now, and she was at a social work celebration on Maui, and I just got invited at the last minute, and I went, and I told her that because the MSW and the BSW are distance education, there's very little social and social work in that delivery system. And that when I taught in 2002 to 2005, Maui Community College had an MSW cohort that was taught on our campus, and I was one of the teachers. And we had a half-time person that was just there to deal with the students and say, do you have any problems? Do you want to meet? Do you want to meet as a group? Do you want to meet in, you know, to be there for the students? And I told her, she said, that is a great idea. I said, I would do it for free. I miss being a teacher, and I totally miss student connections. Retired too soon, I think. And so they're thinking about it. And I think that would be great. But I do worry about all you guys in this DE train, you know, that doesn't have that much contact because you're on Zoom.
I was in the first cohort that launched on the distance for BSW, so that was pretty intense. And then MSW, yeah, it's going good, but yeah, the social interaction is what I miss. But you build that rapport with people on Maui or like wherever you're from, and it's nice to just engage and but you really are on your own kind of in a sense, because then you have to go out and just branch off of other people and stuff. So, but yeah, I enjoy taking your social work 200 class, and I learned a lot from you. And yeah, it's been good. I'm excited though for the future too, because a lot of the MSW and BSW it branched out a lot. Like the numbers are getting higher and higher, so it's good to know we need more on Maui and all over. So it's nice.
Yes, we do, because us old people keep retiring. Old social workers. Well, I'm teaching another social work class, Social Work 200, the required class in spring coming 2023. So if you know anybody that's interested in social work, it's a fabulous class. I love teaching it. And it takes you into the pipeline of BSW, MSW. And I can say that social workers make a very good living that get their degrees. So just a thought. Okay, and I think there's one last slide. We still have 11. Yeah, so this is there are two fabulous books that are listed there. This one is, can you see it? Yeah, Building Motivational Interviewing Skills, a Practical Workbook, and it's the second edition. David Rosengren is a colleague in the Mint group that I'm in, and he is brilliant. And so you can teach yourself MI because of the practice things he has in this book. And he gives you the information and then he has you apply it. Gives you the information, has you apply it. And it's really, really, really good. And then this is the third edition of the Motivational Interviewing book by Bill Miller and Steve I lost it, Rolnick. They were my trainers as well. And motivational interviewing is really an integration also of best practices from every angle, because of the conversational nature, the eliciting from the person you're working with, so you know you're on their page, and they know you're on their page, and giving you ways to handle difficulties, resistance, all those kinds of things. Rolling with resistance, that's what they say. So what would you like to talk about? Because we have 10 more minutes. See, I was so afraid it was going to take me too long and it took too short. Anybody? No questions, no.
You usually have a plethora of stuff. I didn't think you could run out of things.
Yeah, I cut them because I was so afraid. I said to Snatch, I gotta have 2.5 minutes a slide at the most to get through this, and then I sped it up. So I can answer anything about anything else that relates to these things, because I cut out a bit of stuff because I tend to get long-winded. Or at least my preparations are long. Michelle is nodding her head no.
We did have one question from Renee early on in the session, if anybody had successful methods to assist with issues. And I'm sorry, Renee, I can't remember what slide that was on, but if that's still a question that you might want answered, we can address it now.
So, and
I believe it was the first slide, one of the very first few slides, where Lee had all the concerns presented to her by Bobby Joe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to go back to that?
I'm gonna try and find it right now. Let me see.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
The one with four of those things, or the one? Yeah.
Yes, that one.
There you go. So what would you like to ask or explore?
I think the question in the chat was, does anyone have any successful methods in assisting with these issues?
Particular issues?
Yes.
Right. And what I have at the bottom is for people to get together and collaborate on these, because this is not, those things are from probably various agencies referring people to you. Not always the same. I'm certain CPS is in there and others, but those are policy issues that need to be addressed, I think. You know, that if there are not enough resources, how, you know, getting together with the programs or agencies that are funding and talking about that and you know, brainstorming ways, that's a really good meso level of collaboration and advocacy, is to work together to figure out the solutions to those. And a lot of it's about funding, it looks like, you know, assistance is running out. And then helping people to file their paperwork too might be one of the answers to the third one. And the kapuna, caring for children, incarcerated parents, lack of resources. So resources and assistance are 3 of the 4 issues. And so that could be some kind of a coming together of a number of agencies to talk about, with some funding agency, you know, with the primary agencies that are funding the services possibly. And it would be an intensive kind of thing, looking at what's missing, why is this happening? And is anybody, when they engage people at the beginning, whoever that is, CWS or whoever, are they approaching the people they're working with in a way that we just described in this training and talked about? You know, putting them first, their voices first, autonomy, respect, dignity, collaboration. You know, what we would really like is what it amounts to a trauma-informed system in every possible way that includes funding agencies and everything, where no more harm is happening in these kinds of ways. So if people feel like there's no chance for them, then that's a problem. It's a community problem, though. It's a agency problem. It's a system problem. Excuse me. And that's a time for collaboration, I think, with other agencies and the funding agencies, possibly.
Lee, we're at our 5-minute mark, just so you know.
We're on the 5-minute mark. Okay. Anything else? What did I miss? Great seeing you. Yes, it's great seeing you, Kathy, too. A lot of you I haven't seen out in the community in a long time. Yep.
Sorry,
And
Lee,
whoop.
when do you do the motivation interview training? I know you mentioned you do those.
Mm-hmm. I can't see who's speaking right now.
Oh, Cheyenne, sorry.
Oh, okay, great. Yes. Well, are you you're not working in an agency?
No, I'm
But-
interning at Liliuokalani Trust though right now, and
Oh,
they
you
actually,
are?
yeah, and they
Right.
actually implement motivation interviewing. And yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, and you're getting that training there?
They have some, but I would love to learn more about it from you too, if anything.
Great. Well, Queen Liliuokalani Trust is a fabulous and a very heart felt place. And I know many of the people there, Lenny English and, you know, anyway, I love the people. I love the work. I did some trainings for the grandparents about 10, 15 years ago that were having their kids, but I'd be happy to do an MI training for Liliuokalani Trust. And it could be days, 2 days. So let them know. Momi, tell Momi.
There was one last question from Chelsea. We may not have time to touch on too much. And Chelsea, the information to contact Lee is also on the screen. It should be, at least. If you don't see it, let me know. I can put it in the chat. But Chelsea was wondering about some of the information you think they could benefit from that were in the slides that were cut.
So I have trouble hearing that or discerning it.
If you could share some of the information from the slides that you cut.
That's what that last word is not getting to me.
So the slides that you cut.
Oh, the slides that I cut. Got it. I'd be happy to share that information. In fact, anybody that wants more information, I'm happy to send some really dynamic handouts to all of you, any and all of you. I have them that they're already prepared that would flesh out more of this. And so email me and tell me your interest, you know, your area of interest, and I can send you a bunch of stuff that I've got prepared. that I'd be happy. I'm happy to share this stuff. That's why I do the trainings for free. I just want the community to get the best support and for our community members to get the best help they can get. So